All right, ladies and gentlemen, I want to welcome you to our July 22nd, 2025 public board meeting. I am Robert Sally. I'm proud to serve as the board chair of Baltimore City Public Schools, along with my vice chair and my illustrious board and our CEO, Dr. Santelises. We'd like to welcome you this evening to our public board meeting. If you've not done so, for our folks who are online, please mute your phone. Anyone who does not mute their phone may be muted by the call moderator or removed from the call. Additionally, if you're not the board member, the CEO, and our staff, we ask that you please turn off your video. I'll now read a roll call of the board to identify who's on the call and who's present here in the room with us. Please identify yourself first before speaking for the record. Vice Chair Parker.
Vice Chair Parker present.
Thank you. Commissioner Ames Messenger.
Ames Messenger present.
Thank you. Commissioner Chicas Guzman.
Commissioner Chicas Guzman present.
Thank you. Commissioner Coy.
Commissioner Coy present.
Thank you. Commissioner Esposito.
Commissioner Esposito present.
Oops, and Commissioner Esposito, we'll have you try one more time.
Oh, can you hear me?
I'm going to
No.
take that. We might have some audio. I'm just going to phone some friends. We might have some audio issues.
We hear you online,
We
though.
can work on sound for us, but we've got you, Commissioner Esposito. Commissioner Kenyatta Bay.
Commissioner Kenyatta Bay, present.
Thank you. Commissioner Mohammed is absent this evening. Commissioner Redding Lollinger.
Commissioner Redding Lounger present.
I believe he's joining us virtually, and I think there's also just a sound issue, so we're going to mark him present because we see him. Commissioner Simmons.
Commissioner Simmons present.
Thank you. And Commissioner Slater Harrington, she may be also virtual.
I'm present.
For now, because we don't see her, we'll mark her absent, but if she does join us
I'm
virtually, we'll mark
here.
her present.
here.
I'm also present this evening. Is there a motion to reopen tonight's meeting?
Ames Messenger so moved.
Thank you, Commissioner Ames Messenger. Is there a second?
Second
Second.
Kenyatta Bay.
I'll take Commissioner Kenyatta Bay. All in favor, Vice Chair Parker?
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Ames Messenger.
Yes.
Commissioner Chicas Guzman.
Yes.
Commissioner Coy.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Esposito. Okay, thumbs up will work. Commissioner Kenyatta Bay.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Mohammed's absent. Commissioner Redding Lollinger.
Yes.
I'm gonna also say that as a thumbs up. Commissioner Simmons.
Commissioner Simmons, yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Slater Harrington. Did we have her just yet? She is online. Okay, we're gonna acknowledge that Commissioner Slater Harrington's online, and I'm in favor. This motion passes. Is there a motion to approve the prior open session minutes?
So moved, Kenyatta Bay.
Thank you, Commissioner Kenyatta Bay. Is there a second?
Second. Parker.
I'll take Vice Chair Parker as a point of privilege, and we'll get the student commissioner next time. All in favor, Vice Chair Parker?
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Ames Messenger.
Yes.
Commissioner Chicas Guzman.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Coy.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Esposito. Thumbs up. Yes. Commissioner Kenyatta Bay.
Yes.
Commissioner Redding Lollinger. Yep.
Yes.
Thumbs up. All right. Commissioner Simmons.
Yes.
Commissioner Slater Harrington.
Yes.
Think we have, and we can't always see all the screens, so I appreciate Commissioner Esposito letting us know. Thank you. And I'm in favor. This motion passes. Is there a motion to approve the closed session summaries?
So move Mark Parker.
Thank you, Commissioner Parker. Is there a second?
Second Kenyatta Bay.
Thank you, Commissioner Kenyatta Bay. All in favor, Vice Chair Parker.
Yes.
Commissioner Ames Messenger.
Yes.
Commissioner Chicas Guzman.
Yes.
Commissioner Coy.
Yes.
Commissioner Esposito. All right. Commissioner Kenyatta Bay.
Yes.
Commissioner Mohammed. I'm sorry, he's absent this evening. Commissioner Redding Lollinger. Yep.
Yes.
Awesome. Commissioner Simmons.
Yes.
Commissioner Slater Harrington.
Yes.
And I assume,
I
yep.
guess so, yes.
Yes,
Mm.
awesome. And I'm in favor. This motion passes. Once again, I'd like to welcome you to our July 22nd board meeting. The summer's flying by fast. I just want to quickly share a couple of important action items. I'm going to split some with the vice chair this evening. So first, we want to remind our families primarily that summer enrollment and transfer window ends on August 8th. Families can enroll here at the district office, I believe, right at the end of the hallway. And in this very room, Monday and Tuesdays, 9 to 4, and Wednesdays, 10 to 6. We ask that families don't delay because we want to make sure that we have all of our scholars in place for the first day of school. No transfer or inter-district requests will be accepted after August 8th. We do have more information on City Schools website on the summer enrollment tab that explains more on the process.
Good evening, everyone. We are encouraging everyone to complete the annual student verification to help the district know up-to-date information regarding our students. This information helps the district know exactly who to expect on the first day of school and what they need to have the best school year possible. To complete this necessary process, please log into your campus portal account and verify your students' information, including contact details, emergency information, medical needs, and required back-to-school forms. For more information on the annual student verification process, please visit City Schools website. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, Vice Chair. Now I'd like to turn it over to Dr. Santalisa for CEO comment.
Thank you, Chair Sally. Good evening, everyone. I will apologize in advance. I am not feeling all that great. So I will go through my comments, and when you see me scoot out, it is so that I can make sure I am maintaining public health standards. But it's great to see everyone tonight. I'm going to invite Chief Nielsen for this evening's PEP agenda.
Thank you, Dr. Santalisa. Good evening, commissioners. If you are on tonight's PEP and you're here in person, please stand up when I read your name so that we can recognize you. And if you are joining us online, please turn on your camera so we can recognize you. From the Office of the Chief Academic Officer, appointments, recommended that Molly Davey, currently Educational Associate 12-month ESOL, be appointed School Success Liaison Multilingual Learning effective July 26, 2025. Recommended that Demetria Hooten, currently Assistant Principal at Reginald F. Lewis High School, be appointed Coordinator Social Studies effective July 26, 2025. And from the Office of the Chief of Schools, appointments, recommended that Brandon Buffin, currently Assistant Principal at Wynn Music Community Charter School in New York, be appointed Assistant Principal at Elmer A. Henderson, a Johns Hopkins Partnership School, effective August 9th, 2025. Recommended that Mary Gorin, currently Assistant Principal at Coppin Academy High School, be appointed Principal at Coppin Academy High School, effective July 26, 2025. Recommended that Ebony Zook, currently Academic Resource Specialist at St. Mary's Seminary and University, be appointed Assistant Principal at Baltimore Montessori Public Charter Elementary, effective August 9th, 2025. Congratulations to everyone on tonight's PEP agenda.
Thank you, Chief Nielsen. As one further point, I'd like to highlight that Dr. Mary L. Gorin brings nearly 3 decades of experience to her position as principal. She previously served as assistant principal at Coppin Academy, where she had also been an English teacher and educational associate. Dr. Gorin holds both bachelor's and master's degrees from Wayne State University and a doctorate in education from Gwynedd Mercy University. Congratulations, Dr. Gorin. I would like to continue this evening by celebrating our partnership with the Baltimore Ravens, the Stephen and Renee Bisciotti Foundation, M&T Bank, and College Track to launch the Baltimore Ravens College Track Center, ensuring our students have the support they need to excel in higher education and beyond. College Track is a comprehensive college completion program that makes a 10-year commitment to students serving to become the first in their families to earn a bachelor's degree. providing state-of-the-art facilities and dedicated educators who guide students from high school through college and into their careers. We are thrilled and grateful for their commitment to the success of our students. We are especially grateful for the extraordinary generosity of the Baltimore Ravens, the Stephen and Renee Bisciotti Foundation, and M&T Bank, who together contributed $20 million to the College Track Center as part of a $40 million donation to the Ravens College Access Program over the next decade. I will now turn it over to our Chief Communications, Engagement, and Enrollment Officer, Tina Highcupboard, who will introduce our partners. Tina?
Thank you, Dr. Santelises. Good evening, commissioners. I am so pleased today to bring College Track forward. We've been nurturing this partnership for a long time. And so I just want to quickly introduce, we have some participants virtual as well as in person. So virtual first will be Sashi Brown, the president of the Baltimore Ravens, to say so few remarks. We will then have Scott Graham, the senior charitable program officer at M&T Bank, followed by the person to my left, Sherelle James, who might be a familiar face to some of you who used to be with City Schools, who is the founding executive site director for the Baltimore Ravens College Track Center. With us also this evening, but not giving remark, just want to make a note of Cheryl Goldstein behind me to my left, who is representative of the Stephen Renee Bisciotti Foundation, and also Heather Darney, the Vice President of Community Relations for the Ravens. And with that, I will turn it over to Sherelle to give, to Sashi to give first remarks. Sashi, are you with us? Can you come off mute and turn? As well as Scott Graham, please.
Yeah, I'm here. Yep, I'm here.
Sashi in the meeting.
Scott's here. Can you hear me, Tina?
We can hear you, Scott. We were letting Sashi go first, but while we're trying to get Sashi in, Scott, do you just want to give a few words quickly as well?
Sure, of course. Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Scott Graham, Director of M&T Bank's Charitable Foundation here in Baltimore. As M&T's representative, it's an honor to be able to join you guys today to talk about why M&T is so proud to participate in the College Track Baltimore program, alongside our longtime partners, the Baltimore Ravens, the Stephen and Renee Bisciotti Foundation, Baltimore City Public Schools, and of course, College Track. For us, this is a simple equation. As a business, as an employer, as a corporate citizen in Baltimore, M&T Bank is doubling down on the future of Baltimore City and the region. We believe this program will not just be one of the programs helping to transform lives of young people in Baltimore. We believe the College Track program will be a leader in empowering Baltimore City Public School students to not only improve their lives, but to also uplift their communities. This program is going to develop future leaders, and M&T Bank is here for it. We're not just going to fund the program, walk away. We want to bring our people, our expertise, and our partnerships to help fuel this journey for these students. We want this College Track program to be unlike any other in the country, and we want this program to become a model for how civic-focused organizations partner together to catalyze change in communities. So in partnership with the Ravens, Bisciotti Foundation, Baltimore City Schools, and College Track, we believe the potential of this program is boundless, and we can't wait to get started. So thank you for the time, and thank you for the opportunity to speak today.
Thank you, Scott. I think we're just trying to get Sashi, and I'm texting him. So I asked him to go back out and come back in. But right now, I'll go ahead and let Sherelle James give her remarks about the work happening in Baltimore currently.
Thank you. Good evening to the commissioners, to Dr. Santelises. I just want to take a moment. I am Sherelle James. I am a career educator, is how I describe myself. For over 20 years, I have worked in service to students, families, and teachers right here in Baltimore City Public Schools, first as a classroom teacher and then later as a school leader, helping to found the National Academy Foundation and then a school leader at Baltimore School for the Arts. And so this work for me truly is a culmination of everything that I've gotten to do to date, K-12, and then to go beyond is such a gift. I want to acknowledge Dr. Santelises in particular and Chief Hype Hubbard, because long before I was selected to be in this role as Executive Site Director, they were working along with the Bishotti Foundation and along with M&T and the Ravens to make certain that college track could actually come to Baltimore. And so as has been stated, this program is really a comprehensive program, and what makes it so unique is that it's a 10-year commitment program where we're starting with students in 9th grade, we're seeing them to and through high school, and then through college and into early career. And I think those are some of the things that make the program so unique. I like to say that we go deep and we go long with scholars and their families. And much like you've heard M&T already reference, as well as the Ravens, this is a deep partnership and a long sustaining partnership. And we know that it will not only benefit the 9th graders who walk through our doors in this January of the school year, but also their families, who we'll work very closely with, and then into our Baltimore community. And so we are all about making certain that students have opportunity, power, choice, and purpose. While we are new in Baltimore, we do have 12 other sites across the United States, and we've been around for 27 years. So we are not new to this work. We are well established. We are confident in saying that we are already a leader in this work, and we will do the same in Baltimore. And because of the gift, the bountiful gift from the Stephen and Renee Bishotti Foundation, Ravens and M&T, we really have the opportunity to focus closely on programming, to really begin to build roots and come into Baltimore in the most respectful way, and knowing that we just want to augment what's already happening here with other like-minded organizations. Really quickly, I'll let you know that we will be in the Mondawmin area. We will be starting with 60 to 75 9th graders coming into our state-of-the-art facility in January. And our partners are the ACE, Frederick Douglass, ACE, Forest Park, Carver, and Edmondson Westside. They will be our 5 school partners that we'll begin with. Thank you for this time.
And that just is due to proximity first. It would start out, I think any student can apply across the city.
Absolutely.
Targeting those schools because of proximity.
Absolutely.
And I think now we can finally call forward Sashi Brown. I think he's been admitted. Sashi, are you there? Duana just admitted them. And maybe you're on mute, sir. Oh, he's texting me. Okay, he's asking me to pass along his deepest thanks for the work that we do every day and the trust to partner with us on college access programming and Baltimore Ravens College Track Center. And he's apologizing for any confusion of not being able to enter. I'm not sure what happened, but I know he was with us here listening in. Right, we're so happy that he, as the president of the Ravens, personally took an interest in this and engaged directly in this huge investment for our kids. And we just look forward to the work that they're going to recruit your first class starting this fall, and they will start in January of 2026. So.
Well,
Send our apologies because I think there's an IT issue and even the commissioners aren't being heard. So
okay.
send our apologies.
Oh, it's a larger IT.
The larger IT issue. Okay.
I will make sure he knows that.
Well, and I will just say, hopefully he still has the opportunity to hear. I do think it's important for folks to know a couple of things. One, the Ravens have been long-standing partners, and I have worked in numerous places where that is not the case for the major sports franchise in a city. So that's one, and that has been true since I was chief academic officer. Two, Sashi, in the first meeting we had when he became president of the Ravens, was very clear that he wanted academic impact and he wanted something that was going to shift generational access to higher education. And in partnering with Shirley, I think part of the distinctive one within Baltimore City is that these are not the profile of young people that we typically view as those who are going to college. And not that I don't love our B students, not that I don't love our A students, because I got one sitting right next to me, but we also have lots of young people who have yet to be reached. And so the idea that this program is place-based, is going after an unreached group of young people is significant. So Sashi couldn't say that for himself. He probably wouldn't have knowing how he rolls, but I needed to say that I think we all need to be very conscious of the fact that other cities do not have major sports franchises who come in at this level. And the Ravens have continually done that throughout my 15 years in Baltimore City. So thank you again. I just want to thank Madam James. I want to thank Cheryl Goldstein, who's here. Want to thank Tina and all of the other partners who are helping us really get this off the ground and running. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Much appreciated.
And Doc, we are here. I'm sorry to be late.
Oh, wait a minute. See,
Sashi.
I
Sashi's
knew,
voice.
Sashi, I knew if I just kept talking, it might.
You on.
Yes.
That's it.
The
That's
floor is
it.
yours, sir.
Well, listen, I will be brief. Sorry, I think we had a mix up on the link. I want to thank everyone in Baltimore public school system for all the incredibly critical work that you all do every day. We're excited to be partnering with you all on this exciting initiative that Dr. S just more eloquently than I ever could articulated and described. Sherelle, we're excited to have you leading our effort, and I want to just make sure that we acknowledge and recognize Renee and Steve Bishotti and Jack and Jason. The Bishotti family has been so generous and so kind to let us make this type of investment and partner with the school system on our entire Ravens College Access Program, and particularly excited about the Baltimore Ravens College Track Center. So thank you all for your trust. Thanks, Cheryl, for being there. On behalf of Heather, myself, and the rest of the team over here at the Ravens, let's go beat up some people on the field and get some of these kids right into college where they belong. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Sash.
Great. In March, I had the privilege of celebrating a remarkable cohort of leaders who were recognized as part of the Transformational Principal Pathway. This evening, I am pleased to continue that recognition by honoring 2 additional principals who have also been named Transformational Principals as part of this year's cohort. I would like to invite Chief Human Capital Officer Emily Nielsen to join me in presenting certificates to this year's latest distinguished leaders. I also think that it is important to point out that both of these leaders met the criteria for this award while leading in non-traditional school settings. And oftentimes there is a practice among leaders to make sure they take schools that, you know, they can kind of show the results. There are very few leaders who will take schools, frankly, with some of our most challenging young people. And so I would love to be able to recognize, I don't know where Emily is, Dave Verdi, principal, current principal now, thank you, Emily, principal of Frederick Douglass High School, and Frederico Adams, principal of Youth Opportunity. Dave and Frederico embody leadership with purpose and heart. They have embraced bold instructional leadership and are creating lasting impact for students and staff alike. We are proud to have them in this cohort and in our city schools leadership community. Please join me once more in congratulating these 2 outstanding school leaders.
So we'll invite our entire board up for the
Next, this summer, I just want to give brief recognition to the school leader pipelines and induction team who continued to strengthen our district's leadership pipeline through 2 major onboarding experiences. And what makes these experiences so significant is that 10 years ago, when I arrived back in Baltimore City, there was no pipeline for the bench. When one of the then board commissioners, who's now a principal, Peter Canham, said, "So where's our bench?" I respectfully looked at him and said, "Sir, we have none." Today, we are so much further along. And this summer, we had our new administrator summer orientation where we welcomed 13 principals and 15 assistant principals at the Sheridan. This multi-day orientation was aligned to the City Schools leadership framework and designed to help new leaders understand what and who they need to know before the school year begins. This is in sharp contrast to when new leaders used to come. We would give them keys, say, "We hope you figure it out," and send up this flare gun if it gets really bad. So we no longer do that. You could see that live. And then the following week, we welcome 10 new resident principals into the iLead program, doubling our cohort from 5 to 10. iLead is a key entry point for aspiring principals through year-long placements in which residents are paired with experienced principal mentors and engage in job-embedded practice, teaching, and professional learning. Leadership development is a shared responsibility, one that spans across departments, teams, and partners. We are deeply grateful to all of the team who contributed to the success of NASO and iLead, especially the Office of Equity and our partners at the Wallace Foundation for their continued support in building the capacity of current and future leaders in city schools. And then finally, I am very pleased to announce another milestone on the path of student achievement. Our latest data on student participation in advanced placement exams. In the last 10 years, City Schools has increased the number of students taking AP exams by 79%, from 2,259 students taking AP exams in 2015 to over 4,000 students in 2025. Yes, that's worthy of clapping. In the past 3 years alone, from school year 22-23 to school year 24-25, City Schools saw a 30% increase in the number of students taking AP exams, with over 4,000 students taking AP exams in 24-25. This is the highest number of City School students taking AP exams since records in City Schools have been kept. And then finally, this year, City School students took AP exams in 35 of 38 different subjects offered by the College Board. And one of the things that typically happens for those of us who have worked with AP and IB for a long time is you typically see a decline when access to AP increases. But City School students defied that trend, securing an 11.07% increase in students earning a qualifying score of 3 or higher during the past 3 years. So I will close just by saying a hearty thank you to all of our teachers who believed that our young people were capable of this high-level college preparatory, often college credit-bearing work. And I want to say a special shout out. People know I say this. I'm not embarrassed to say this, to one of my favorites, and it is Dennis Jutras. I don't apologize for him being one of my favorites. Part of why he is because he gets it done. And 9 years ago, when I asked him to spread AP throughout the far reaches of this district into every single high school, he looked at me and said, "Really? That's what you want me to do?" And I said, "Yes." and he has delivered. He has partnered with teachers, with principals, and he has led in a steady way that is also respectful and honors the leadership of the people in our classrooms. So as the mom of one of those AP students who got that 3 or higher, I say thank you to the teachers, school leaders, and to Mr. Jutras and his staff. That concludes my remarks this evening, Chair.
Thank you so much, Dr. Espy. We really appreciate that. And I think you shared one really important thing, right? Which is we're honoring a lot of our bench here, right? We recognize that it's really important to have solid leaders within our school community, whether they're in our classroom, in our district. The board also, just want to pick up on this, we are also committed to our own building of pipelines. And so we are honored to have Darius Robinson as a board fellow this summer. So this is the first time that we've had our own board fellow since I've been on the board. Darius is joining us from the Leadership for Educational Equity, which there are many board members who are part of that professional learning community. And so we're excited to have him to impart wisdom on us and to learn from him as much as we're offering an opportunity for him to learn. So thank you for joining us this summer. So we appreciate that. And continuing on the theme of human capital, we are going to move on to our approval of personnel, employment, and payroll, and appeals and hearings, the quasi-judicial. Is there a motion to approve PEP and quasi-judicial matters?
So moved, Kenyatta Bay.
Thank you, Commissioner Kenyatta Bay. Is there a second?
Second, Simmons.
Thank you, Commissioner Simmons. All in favor, Vice Chair Parker?
Yes.
Commissioner Ames Messenger?
Yes.
Commissioner Chicas Guzman?
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Coy.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Esposito.
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you, Commissioner Kenyatta Bay.
Yes.
Commissioner Mohammed is absent. Commissioner Redding Lollinger.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Simmons.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Slater Harrington.
Yes.
Thank you, and I'm in favor. This motion passes. I'll now review the consent agenda. Board colleagues, please let me know if you'd like an item removed, and please state your question for staff. 9.01, the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, the AFL-CIO Council Number 3 and Local Number 44 contract. 9.02, a Policy Board JFE for second reader. 9.03, the update to the general orders, second reader. 12.01, interpreter, translator, and American Sign Languages services, multiple vendors. 13.01, I'm sorry.
I'd like that removed. Just 2 quick questions.
Sure, go ahead and state your questions.
What languages are represented? What languages are capabilities are available through the various vendors is number 1. And second, what feedback have we gotten about the effectiveness of these services in the past?
Okay, we'll give staff an opportunity to prepare for those questions. 13.01, Schmidt Baking Company, Incorporated, fresh baked breads and rolls. 15.01, CNN Associates, LLC, window and door replacement at George Kelson, building number 157. 15.02, The Good Companies, Incorporated, refuse and recycle collection services contract increase and extension. 18.01, Herman and Graham, PA, legal services contractual agreement. And 19.01, Yonder Incorporated. It will now move to public comment from our recognized groups. Public comment shared by our district and our recognized groups and the general public. Oh, I'm sorry, Commissioner Esposito, did you have a question?
Yeah, so I wanted to pull 9.01 to ask a question about when it comes to health and safety, how we're able to manage the buildings during off seasons or days, especially like during the summer months where we have spikes in temperature, to accommodate folks that may be working in facilities during those times to ensure that they're safe.
Okay, thank you. We'll also have staff answer those questions before we vote on that particular item this evening. I want to make sure that we do have an opportunity for public comment from our recognized groups. And so this is a tradition here in Baltimore City Schools where we make sure that speakers from our recognized groups will have the opportunity to speak first for 5 minutes, and afterwards the general public may speak. We'll kick it off with the Baltimore Teachers Union, Corey Garber. I'm not sure if Corey's online or here. The video. I think it's video. Yep. And so we don't have any sound for this particular video just yet. Okay. How about this while we wait and go through some of these technical edits? We'll just do general public comment.
Can we try one more time?
Okay. Are they all videos this evening for general?
Give me one more time, Chair, please.
Okay.
Let me try once more.
Okay.
And the rest video. Do you want to take the in-person people first, since we know they won't have any technical difficulties?
Yeah, why don't we do that? If that's okay, Patricia will come back. So we'll begin with our in-person public comment.
So the first in-person public comment will be from Madeline Monson Rosen.
Welcome. Thank you for joining us this evening. And we'll have you push the button so everybody can hear.
Thank you. My name is Madeline Munson Rosen. I'm a literature teacher at Bard High School Early College and a parent of a second grader at Patterson Park Public Charter School. Distinguished board members, I want to speak to you today about school safety and about the district's commitment to provide all classrooms with doors that lock from the inside. I'm privileged to work at Bard, which is a school that prioritizes our students' safety and well-being. Our administrators and faculty always lead with care for our students, and we work together to make sure our students feel welcomed and valued in the school building so that they can focus on learning. Our students report that most of the time they feel safe inside our school building, and I feel the weight of my responsibility to preserve that sense of safety so children can give their energy and attention to their academics. But despite those efforts, often what is outside the school intrudes into the building. I've been pepper sprayed and stink bombed, and I've heard from my kids when someone's brought a weapon into the school. My school is located in the old Lamel Middle School, a storied institution suffering from years of wear and tear and shamefully inadequate investment. In my building, I have seen doors come off their hinges, outside doors get warped and damaged so they don't close completely, and students open outside doors to receive food deliveries. We've had break-ins and vandalism in the building, not to mention the crumbling concrete and sagging plaster. So when I hear about the district's plans to purchase AI weapons detection or high-tech surveillance, I have to laugh, because your AI system isn't going to fix those broken hinges. In my building, most of the doors lock from the outside, not from the inside. When we have a lockdown, I have to step outside, lock my door, step back inside, and shut myself and my students in. Those are precious seconds that could be wasted in a real emergency. I know the Trump administration is playing a shell game with school funding, but if we cut out that noise, we're still faced with a decision that looks pretty simple to me. What is it worth to keep our kids safe? In a response to my colleague, Mr. Marinelli, Chief Operations Officer Dr. Lynette Washington suggests that locking doors are simply something that the district can't afford. But what is the price tag on student safety? Both the Sandy Hook Advisory Commission and the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School Public Safety Commission have recommended classroom doors that lock from the inside as a #1 safety measure to keep students safe in the event of a school shooting. And you, distinguished commissioners, have committed to providing locking doors for every classroom. But North Avenue has responded by talking about capital and non-capital funds, and nobody is going to care about that distinction when a child gets hurt. We are hearing about KIA and front office measures, but what happens when the school secretary is out sick, when we simply don't have the staff to manage these new procedures? So not only am I here to ask you to deliver on this simple commitment to ensure our kids' safety, a commitment you have already made, I'm also here to share my expectation for you that you will communicate a plan for installing locking doors across the district, and that you will implement that plan without hedging, without crossing your fingers behind your back, and without making excuses. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We appreciate the public comment this evening.
Next public comment live is Nathan Farrell.
Good evening. Welcome, Mr. Farrell. How you doing?
Hey. Okay. Did you leave this on for me, Ms. Ronson? Okay, great. Good evening, everybody. Nathan Farrell, teacher. Special welcome to Student Commissioner Chicas Guzman. We are really grateful for the work of the board and staff on revisions to policy KIA. And I just want to encourage the board, as you read policy KIA, I want you to imagine how effective these revisions are in schools without doors that lock. I want you to read policy KIA and imagine being an educator, hearing the announcement of lockdown, lockdown, lockdown. And you move your class to the corner of the room, you turn your lights off, your doors don't lock. I want you to read policy KIA, and I want you to think about a student or a bad actor propping open an exterior door to allow someone to enter a school where the classroom doors don't lock. And lastly, please have empathy for educators who work in buildings that, frankly, there are struggles with behavior management, and they can't keep their door locked to prevent children from eloping or students from entering who should not be in the classroom, who fight and disrupt. Language access, hard pivot. We're eager for the next phase of improving language access, and we call on the release of quantitative data. Appreciate Commissioner Lallinger. Quantitative data on ACSI language access services, particularly around usage data. ACSI should make publicly available to the board and the community usage data rates per school site so we understand how it's being used and we can target supports to the schools. We've requested that data in the past. It's not been provided. Qualitative studies are helpful, and we look forward to the presentation tonight, but they do not supplant quantitative usage rates of these systems and cost structures related to that. A strategy to improve language access really must include compensation. In city schools, bilingual staff are routinely asked to work above and beyond regular job duties, and they're not compensated for it. So by having a formalized compensation system or pay differential for bilingual staff, city schools really is not able to leverage an existing asset, right? Because we don't have it in place. The existing stipend or scheduling model for bilingual staff to serve as interpreters has way more demand than supply because our members, frankly, have been harmed by not being paid for interpretation work in the past. The BTU has brought proposals to this to the board's team, and the board has outright rejected them. When you walk into a school with bilingual front office staff, it's a really great feeling. But our office assistants that are often that first person, they're the lowest possible paid people in the building. It's $18 an hour, $19 an hour. And when you ask them, they will tell you that their job is unsustainable for the pay. They're the social worker, the interpreter, the attendance monitor, the community liaison, and they're doing so for a fraction of what they should be earning in any institutional setting. So part of improving language access must include hiring and retention strategies for bilingual staff and wage differentials for the educators and the support staff who are really going to be essential to scale up the recommendations that we're going to hear tonight. So thank you for your time, and hope everybody's having a good summer.
Thank you so much, Mr. Farrell. I appreciate your comment this evening.
Next person, Teresa Burris.
Good evening. Welcome.
Thank you. Oh, okay. So thank you for having me. My name is Teresa. I am here to make the board aware of a petition that I have initiated on behalf of the community. When I say the community, north, south, east, and west of Baltimore City. The petition is geared toward a few requests that are important to the community as far as I know, according to the signatures that I have in this book. So the first request is at least 3 trades in every single public high school. When the ladies were up here talking about the higher education and the Ravens, all that good stuff, that's so amazing, especially seeing as how they mentioned that it's geared toward, you know, lower ranking students, I guess is what y'all say. When you think about the No Child Left Behind, yeah, that needs to be revamped. But as far as the trades, it should be, that opportunity should be offered to all students. It should be offered to all students. It should not just be in some schools. The second request, the merge that you all did with elementary and middle, we would like to break that up. We would like to revert back to elementary standing alone. And maybe if you have to do a merge middle and high school because it makes more sense, because middle school students aren't equipped to lead elementary school students. Not saying that they're leaders, but they are in a way. Okay, you've made them leaders, merging our babies with middle schoolers. And I've worked in a middle school where there's sixth graders running up and down the hall screaming about their genitals walking past the kindergartner. That's not, appropriate, and it's not effective. The next request is free math and literacy tutoring. That should be made available in every single public school, before and after school. I know that you have in place some literacy programs in the schools, but with those literacy programs, they only serve as K through third grade, number one. Number two, they have to pull the children out of their core classes to even service them for 5 to 20 minutes, whatever program it is. Okay. And that's not adequate whatsoever. The last thing is not the last thing, it's the last thing until I hear something else when we go to our next meeting. But the last thing that I have today, back to the No Child Left Behind, please stop passing our children to the next grade when they cannot read. Please stop passing our children, because we have all these things in place for higher education, but nothing in place for the 8th grader who is reading on a 4th grade level, and we wonder why they act out. That is insane to me. And it's not insane just to me, to a whole lot more people. And so those are the requests. And I just wanted to make you aware of the petition and to let you know that we will be in touch. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. We appreciate that opportunity, and we look forward to receiving that so we can review that in a little bit more detail. We appreciate it. I believe that's the end of the in-person.
I have one more. I can read the email, and then we can go try the videos. So this is from Barbara Howard, and her topic is NCL letters to certified qualified veteran educators. Good evening to all of you. My name is Ms. Howard. I've been a highly qualified, certified, and veteran special education teacher for 4 decades. This past May, my qualifications, along with thousands of my highly qualified colleagues, were called into question in the public. Example, parents and guardians and administrators incorrectly. Every Student Succeed Act, ESSA, requires that teachers, every Student Succeed Act, ESSA, requires that teachers in Title I schools meet licensure and certification requirements, and requires the district to notify the families if their children are taught by a teacher who is not fully certified and licensed to teach. And every fall, BCPSS sends out letters to teachers of record at Title I funded schools and to the families of their students if they are not fully certified. Many of us have been faced with several of the matters below, if not all. 1, worried educators asked their principals to change their teaching assignments for the following year, which was not necessary. 2, school leaders and educators are under the impression that the educator receiving the NCL letter needs to add endorsements to their license prior to the new school year. 3, parents, guardians have questioned the educator's capability and undermined the authority of the educator. 4, these avoidable errors create undue scrutiny from negative people within the media for the educator and BCPSS. 5, lastly, I contacted via emails the licensure department in May 2025. Not one worker could give me a concrete answer on what was the cause of this ordeal. Finally, in July 2025, I was informed via email from the said department that a huge error was made on the BCPSS's part. I responded back to the said department that asked, where are all the letters of correction that should go out to all the parents and guardians, informing them that there was a mistake on the district's part and not those educators who who are and have been highly qualified, certified veteran educators. Please hold yourself accountable when you do wrong. So far, no response.
Thank you, Joanna, for that. Can we go ahead and try for the public videos? Do we want to go back on the top, or do you want to do?
Patricia, do you want to try the video from the recognized group to see if that works?
Yes, I'm ready.
Good evening, school board commissioners and Dr. Santelises. My name is Corey Gaber, a 5th and 6th grade ELA teacher on officer leave to serve as a field organizer for the Baltimore Teachers Union. Since taking over for John Casey after he retired in January, I've dealt with a plethora of employees being injured on the job. These injuries happen for all sorts of reasons, like slipping on a wet floor that hasn't been mopped after a spill, or on an icy sidewalk outside of school on a snow day that hadn't been completely shoveled, or a parent assaulting a teacher in their classroom, or playing sports with students outside during recess. When an injury occurs, what should happen? The answer lies in Board Policy EBBB and Administrative Regulation EBBB-RA. I won't read these in full as I don't have enough time in the allotted public comment, but I will highlight a few key areas. Policy EBBB says, quote, each principal/supervisor is responsible for ensuring that all reportable incidents occurring on school grounds or during school-sponsored activities are reported immediately and in an appropriate manner as set forth in the accompanying administrative regulation, end quote. That administrative regulation says, quote, the employee's supervisor must immediately complete the employee incident report in both emergency and non-emergency situations. Both the employee and the supervisor must sign the form. If non-emergency medical care is necessary, the supervisor will direct the employee to take the signed employee incident report form to the medical review officer at Mercy Clinic. The supervisor then calls ACTEC reporting service and submits the original form to ACTEC. This is what should happen in these high-stakes moments, and many principals have done an excellent job caring for their employees, giving them accurate and timely information and guiding them through the appropriate bureaucratic steps, and doing so with empathy and professionalism amidst physical and mental trauma. Unfortunately, in my past 6 months on the job, it's also just as likely that principals and supervisors do not follow the board policies and regulations, even after qualifying incidents are reported to them by employees. One principal told me they would not complete an incident report form because they believed that the employee was exaggerating their injury. Later on, X-rays demonstrated that that employee in question had actually fractured their wrist. Another principal told an employee to just go and see their primary care physician without an incident report and without directing them to the Mercy Clinic, making them ineligible for workers' compensation at the time. One other principal told the employee to go to the Mercy Clinic but without an incident report, which resulted in the employee showing up and being told they couldn't be evaluated since the paperwork had not been completed and sent in by their supervisor, all while dealing with a life-altering physical injury. One more principal didn't follow the regulation, and when I called them, they told me they were willing to complete the incident report form, but couldn't access it without support from their ILED, even though the form is freely available on board docs. When the proper procedures and protocols are not followed, the impact on the employee is potentially life-changing. When employees seek out care on their own without responsiveness or guidance from their supervisor, the time they miss is not covered by workers' compensation, as well as the costs of the medical care associated with the incident. The longer it takes for them to get evaluated by the Mercy Clinic, the less likely it is for Sedgwick, the third-party body who evaluates claims, to compensate them. Sometimes the claim is 100% compensable, but because an employee was not told to go to the Mercy Clinic after reporting to their supervisor, they were told by Sedgwick that their claim wasn't compensable. And this decision was only reversed after BTU connected them with a workers' comp lawyer who contested the designation. Then they had to wait for a scheduled hearing and eventually won many months later. In one such case, the member had used up all of their bank sick leave and was still physically unable to return to work and had to go on unpaid FMLA while they awaited their hearing to be scheduled. This employee's family depended on their paycheck and was in danger of being evicted while trying to navigate a serious injury they still haven't fully recovered from and possibly never will. Thank God for the BTU sick bank that was able to offer a bridge until he eventually was awarded the coverage he deserved after his successful hearing. This extremely stressful situation in which an employee's family was close to being made homeless could have been completely avoided if the proper procedures had been followed. So what am I asking for here? My request is very simple, that human capital retrain principals and supervisors on board policy EBBB and administrative regulation EBBB-RA. I also recommend that during PD week of the upcoming school year, human capital mandate a review of these procedures for staff and their supervisors. A slide deck should be created that reviews the essential points, and after the review, this separate slide deck should be shared with all employees to refer back to. If you follow through on these no-cost requests, you will literally alter the course of people's lives. Unfortunately, we live in a country with a complex for-profit healthcare system that prioritizes money over people. The least we can do for employees who've been injured on the job is to help them get to the point where their claims can at least be fairly evaluated. At the moment, city schools often fails this baseline test of humane treatment. Let's do better in school year 25-26. Thank you.
The next public comment, Patricia, if you're ready, is from Lorenzo Woodfolk Jr., and his topic is support for school visitors policy.
Good morning, my name is Lorenzo Woodfolk. I am a student at Carver Vocational Technical High School. I believe implementing the visitor school policy is important because it's maintaining a safe and secure learning environment. Also, it helps prevent unauthorized access, enhance emergency preparedness, and promotes accountability among visitors by regulating who enter the school and tracking their movement. Visitor management system can reduce the risk of potential threats and ensure a more secure environment for students and staff. Good morning, my
Thank you. The next video is Aiden Bird. Topic is support for school visitors policy.
One second, and I will have Aiden up.
Morning, my name is Aiden. I am a student at Booker T. Washington Middle, and I believe implementing the visitor policy is important for identifying visitors to making them show ID to enter the school building. Without proper ID, it's not only it puts the students in danger and the teachers, but this should also include background checks to keep a clean, safe, and smart school environment.
The next speaker is Chloe Gingles. And again, this is to support for the school visitors policy.
Good morning. My name is Chloe. I am a student of Bard High School Early College. I believe implementing the visitor school policy is important because people never know who will be trying to come into the schools or be in the school and hurt or take the students or teachers. I say this because everyone is different and will always have something wrong with them. And if you allow that into the school building, it will affect the atmosphere and could create trauma that will ruin the environment and how students will learn. Because it could happen to a friend, family member, or you in the student terms, or a colleague for teachers. So I say that they need to implement this policy as the next step to a safer and more effective learning environment.
Thank you, and I'll talk slower so Patricia has time to upload it. The next speaker is Samara Hunter. She is planning to speak on support for the school visitors policy as well.
Good morning, I'm Samara Hunter, and I want to talk about the school security and visitors entering the building, because at some schools, they let people in without verifying who the person is. Sometimes schools, office staff might not know the person, but they still allow individual admittance to the school building. Entering into the school should be verified whether the person is a parent, family member, or community member. Having requirements elevates issues that may areas do communities, home issues, and may spill over into the school environment. I think that individuals that are unable to provide paper identification should understand that entering will not be allowed in efforts to keep all staff and students safe in the school environment.
Thank you. And the next speaker is Curtis Johnson. Again, support for the school visitors policy.
Good morning. My name is Curtis Johnson Jr. I am an upperclassman at Baltimore Polytechnic Institute, and I'm in favor of implementing the new visitor policy in schools because I believe school safety should always be a top priority. One growing concern is ensuring the safety of scholars after school hours. Many students, including myself, participate in after-school activities and clubs. It's important that we have a safe and secure environment where students can comfortably engage in opportunities. Having school staff present or enhancing visitor policy by increasing school police presence or adding more hall monitors can help maintain the safe environment, even after the final bell. In conclusion, I believe a stronger visitor policy will help ensure that our school remains a safe space for all students, both during and after school day.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to pull us all back to order so that we can finish the balance of our meeting this evening. I do appreciate everybody's patience as we just navigated this unfortunate technical glitch. I believe where we are in the agenda is completing public comment. I'd like to go back to the consent agenda. We have two items that were pulled on the consent agenda. I'd like to go to the very first item, which is 9.01. Actually, let me just double check with my board colleagues. Based upon public comment, are there any additional items that folks would like pulled this evening? Hearing none, let's go back to 9.01. Commissioner Esposito had asked a question regarding the AFL-CIO contract. I'd like to invite our colleagues up to ensure that they can address questions related to heat and other health and safety issues present on the job.
Good evening, Scott Washington, Executive Director of School Facilities. I do believe the question that was asked had to do with conditions that the employees that work in our heat environments work under, but can you just repeat it to make sure I have the question completely?
Sure. My question was during the off season, especially like in the summer months or Fridays, for example, when some facilities are closed, what monitoring do we have to ensure that the building temperature doesn't put those that are working in the building and facilities at safety risk during those off times?
Okay, well, first of all, in terms of the monitoring system in the buildings in general, as you may know, we do have what we call our building automation system, which means our mechanical services department actually looks at the temperatures of all our buildings basically by school and by region. So in many cases, what happens is we look at the buildings throughout the course of the day. And if there are situations that may come up on our action list of things we may have to address, we know what those issues are, and we try to address them throughout the course of the day. So we, in most cases, we have an eye on the building or have access to an eye on the building throughout the course of the day. As we do know, some of our infrastructure is kind of old, so we do have repairs that need to be done and things like that. So we're able to actually monitor the buildings, and many times that's why we're able to address some issues early, because we're actually able to see the buildings early enough to know that there may be an issue and address that. And sometimes things happen throughout the course of the day, and we monitor those as well. I know basically in general, our buildings still run. If a staff member is working in the building, unless there's a repair situation going on, the systems are on in the building while the staff is inside the building. And of course, in terms of our staff that works outside the building, we have our heat training that we've done for that with our emphasis on water monitoring and things like that. And all of our operations staff was trained on July 2nd to go through with protocols in that regard.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Welcome.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Mr. Washington. I appreciate it. With 12.01, I know that Commissioner Redding Lollinger had a question regarding the interpreter translator and American Sign Language services. I just want to invite our Chief Academic Officer, Joan Dabrowski, to provide just a summary of the information that's pertinent to those questions.
Yes, good evening. So yes, we were able to connect with Commissioner Lollinger and answer questions. The first question he asked was about the number of languages that we have that are supported through this contract. There are 11 of the languages that we often require or need for. Again, these services support our students who have IEPs, and during IEP meetings, if a family or school requests that interpretation. So we have a range of languages. Most language reference is in Spanish, and so it's certainly we cover all of that. Commissioner also was interested to know, just in general, the feedback around these services. They are overwhelmingly positively received, a very responsive group of support. We are able to, again, be responsive to whether it's a school request or a family request to get the interpretive services needed. We have a couple of new vendors that are joining this procurement. And again, all of the feedback that we've heard from our schools and from our central office folks have been positive with regards to this. So we were able to share that with the commissioner earlier.
Great. Thank you so much, Dr. Dabrowski. I appreciate it. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved. Simmons.
Thank you, Commissioner Simmons. Is there a second?
Second, Ames Messenger.
Thank you, Commissioner Ames Messenger. All in favor, Vice Chair Parker?
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Ames Messenger.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Chicas Guzman.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Coy.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Esposito.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Kenyatta Bay.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Redding Lollinger, who I believe is absent. Commissioner Simmons.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Slater Harrington.
Yes.
Thank you, and I'm in favor. This motion passes. I'll now turn to a presentation from Chief Hike Hubbard from the Chief Office of Communication on our landscape analysis for multilingual learners.
Good evening, everyone. Appreciate everyone's patience. Good evening, Board of Commissioners. We are here today to finally talk about our landscape analysis around how we do business with our multilingual families. As a reminder, we set out on this process a while ago to make sure we understood what we were doing well, what we needed to improve upon, things we could not see and learn more about our work. And so I am here tonight with Andre Riley, as you all know, Executive Director of Communications. I am here with Principal Garcia of Lakeland. She was a participant in our process, as well as speaking from a school who has done a yeoman's job independently of figuring out how we do this work better. And so we want to replicate some of the things they've been doing at Lakeland across the district. And finally, the CEO of AXI, who has been did the landscape analysis, Andreas Esabet. I had it and I got it. All this stuff confusion. Say it for me, sir. Echeverri. See, I had it.
Yes, it was very close.
All right. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and get started. Andre's got the thing up. Great. Fantastic. All right. So go ahead, Andre, the next slide. So obviously this multilingual landscape analysis was aligned with board's strategic priorities, priority 4 and priority 7, to make sure that we are working with our stakeholders and that we're implementing policies and practices and promoting, creating and welcoming and inclusive environment for all of our students and our staff and families. The guiding principles for this work, the Office of Communications, Engagement, and Enrollment, we seek to make sure we meet our families where they are, connecting them with the resources and supports they need to be able to be strategic partners in their children's education. And then obviously the communications team providing timely access to district communications and information for all of our stakeholders. So we, about 6 years ago, when I came to the district in this role, I recognized that we were woefully behind, not only our peers in Maryland, but across the country, and how we engage our multilingual families and our students, frankly. Recognizing that our population continued to grow, we were not able to communicate in languages in real time. We barely translated most documents. And so we began to put things in place. Andre Riley came in shortly after, and he and I both made it our priority from a comms perspective and engagement perspective to make sure we began to implement certain things. And so what you will hear tonight is some of the things we were able to accomplish in that short time period, but we also recognize there is still so much more that needs to be done. But in the short term, we've been able to get district communications out now simultaneously in English and Spanish, almost 90% or 95% of the time. We want to expand those other languages to Arabic, French, Chinese, Swahili, Tringaya, and others. Our communications tools, we've been working on our social channels and our newsletters to be in English and Spanish simultaneously. We have now created what's called language access cards, where families can come in and show what language they speak, and the school can immediately use their ACSI translation services, separate from the landscape analysis, but they are also our provider, as you heard Nathan Farrell say earlier, for our telephonic interpretation system. And so we were able to get those codes out to schools, make sure that everybody had access, and fidelity of implementation is the concern, but we have created the tools and put them in place to make sure folks could have that. And then we've also done things like our pocket talks and other items for our over-the-phone interpretation system. We've also hired a comm specialist for Spanish specifically, and 2 multilingual family engagement specialists whose job it is to go to schools and create welcoming environments to support our schools in creating those environments for our school communities. So our landscape analysis, as our population grows, I don't usually read slides, but on this one, I think it's important to read the statement. This was our purpose. As the district's multilingual population grows, this project aims to inform more equitable policies and business practices by identifying strengths and gaps in language access, family engagement, and cultural competency. This was the framing for how we were doing our work and the purpose and the why. We were assessing current practices and then elevating diverse voices in our process through staff, families, external partners, et cetera, to make sure we had a landscape of hearing from all of our stakeholders of how we're doing now and what we could be doing better. And then my last slide for myself is the 5 areas we measured under the landscape analysis. Our business practices currently, which I have to say were not consistent amongst all schools. Some schools like Lakin have developed their own. We want to make more consistent practices across all of our schools and frankly our district office. The effectiveness of our current translation and interpretation services for multilingual families, how the district engages our multilingual families, including cultural competency, things that need to be addressed, the perceptions of multifamilies and receiving services from the district, so how they're receiving us, and the use of city schools funding, resources, and operational processes to serve and engage our multilingual families. As we continue, you will hear from Andre about what we heard. You will get the findings from ACSI, as well as a perspective from Lakeland and the schools about how this is supporting their work and what we can do moving forward. With that, turning it over to Andre.
Thank you. So how do we do it? How do we go about collecting feedback? Well, as you can see on the screen, we focused on 4 key groups: families, internal stakeholders, largely staff, external stakeholders, those are community organizations, faith-based organizations, and the like, and obviously our schools. For the purposes of this exercise, we looked at schools mostly as internal stakeholders. So when you see the data that we're going to present, that's how it breaks down. But we performed 2 sets of in-person interviews, remote focus groups, remote interviews, a 60-day online survey, and a document review. Every district office, every chief level district office participated in this study, and the work we did to reach out to our different groups was extensive, and we'll talk a little bit about that. So let's get to the findings. We're going to start with the internal side. For all those bullets, I want you to focus on 2 key areas that we focused on. The first, as staff members, what services do you provide to multilingual families? Again, this is a study about how well we serve that group. So we need to know, how do folks perceive how they deliver those services, including what is their role? Are they aware of the services that we provide as a school district and their ability to use them? And then the colleagues in their office who can support it. And what you're going to find here and with our external findings are some really common themes. This is what we learned internally. There are a lot of words on the screen. It's the larger headlines are what I really want you to focus on, because you're going to see with these two levels, the top level, among our 220 stakeholders that we reached out to, there's an understanding that we offer translation and interpretation services. There's a basic understanding of that. There's a basic belief among our staff that having bilingual staff are important. I think we all would agree with that. We're serving multilingual families. Having bilingual staff is a key item. And that there are services available. We are not a school district that lacks the ability to fund, support, and train staff. But that lower category, it all comes down to process. It's not that we don't want to do it, it's do we know how to do it? And when you look at this bottom rung, you'll see that the understanding of a clear strategic direction for this work, again, we want to, but how do we do it? What are we focused on? What are we thinking about? As a school district, we struggle in that area. Our staff need to be trained. They could not have been more clear throughout all the data gathering exercises. We want to help, we don't know how. And finally, a standardization of our practices. And this one is key. When you go to enrollment, what does multilingual engagement look like? When individuals attend our board meetings, what does that look like? When you follow us on social media, what does that look like? When you go to a school, time and time again, we have inconsistent practices throughout the organization, according to the staff that participated in this study. Again, you'll see general feedback, it's more of the same. Nearly half the colleagues believed that there is a lack of structure. Nearly 2/3 of colleagues believed that what we should be doing is providing training, access, and guidance. I don't know how to help people. That's what this is saying to us. And 2/3 of those colleagues believed that we were only slightly or moderately effective in communicating with non-English speaking families. I think you can kind of foreshadow when we start getting feedback from our families, they feel the same way. But at the same time, you're also going to find we're not as far away as one might think from doing this work really well. But before I get to that point, Tina mentioned that we want to give you a school level perspective, because here at North Avenue, we serve everybody, but at the school level, you're focused on families, you're focused on students, and you're focused on the different cultures that we have in this organization. One Spanish speaker to another doesn't mean that they have the same culture. It just means they speak a common language. I'm from Kansas, Tina's from Nebraska. We don't speak the same language. So we have to make certain. All right, so we have Principal Garcia from Lakeland, just to share a few comments about her perceptions of the work in this area.
Good evening, commissioners. Thank you for having me this evening. So I'm here because Lakeland Elementary Middle School is proud to be home of one of the largest populations of multilingual learners in Baltimore City Public Schools. Our community is full of love. It is vibrant, beautifully diverse, and deeply engaged, a true reflection of the richness that makes our city so special. It's essential that we offer services that not only bridge language barriers, but also celebrate and honor the incredible cultural heritage and stories our families bring to school. Our families contribute a remarkable tapestry of cultural and linguistic diversity in our school. While we work hard to meet these needs, we know it's not enough. True access means families can enroll their children, receive academic and wellness support, and engage in everyday communication in their preferred language and in ways that reflect their culture. These services must empower all families to be active, informed partners in their children's education. This landscape analysis is an important step. It amplifies families' voices, allowing them to advocate for what they need, and helps our district align its systems and services to meet those needs. This isn't just about translating documents. It's about ensuring families can fully participate and truly understand as they navigate the education system. No family should have to struggle to make sense of report card marks, or to register their child for an after-school program, or to fully understand and navigate as they sit at the IEP table and don't understand what a cognitive disability means and what that means for their child's future. I'm excited to see what this project can unlock. It's got the potential to deliver consistent interpretation and translated materials and inclusive practices that'll make every family, regardless of what side of the city they live on, feel seen, heard, and valued. While it takes a little bit longer getting to know the parents and the families that come in front of us, it really lets them know that we care about them, and it's not just about reading and writing. It's about educating the whole child, and that is our focus at Lakeland. So thank you, commissioners and Dr. Santelises, for recognizing this need and taking meaningful action. We're ready to be partners in building a more equitable and accessible district for every family we serve.
Thank you kindly. So that's a summary of our internal work and what we learned so far. Again, we have some analysis to share. Now, there was a question earlier this evening about what type of data that we gathered. This is a summary. This is a PowerPoint deck. Tomorrow, we will post the entire report on our website, both qualitative and quantitative data. So yes, we're right now just summarizing a very complicated project, but I want to be clear. Yes, we are not just developing themes, but for the purposes of this exercise, I want you to understand what we learned. So let's talk about external folks. External, yeah, we want to focus on when we spoke to our families, when we spoke to community organizations, the key thing was, are you able to access the services that this school district provides as far as if you're a multilingual family, can you access it? That was this exercise once again. How do we improve from a business perspective? So are we welcoming and inclusive? What's the frequency, accessibility, and clarity of those communications that we provide? In the comfort level of members of our community who speak a language other than English or who arrive from a different culture, their ability to communicate with the school district effectively, unlock our services, and ultimately be great participants in the education of their students. Let's talk about how we got there. Similar slide, similar themes. Across the top, from the 160 stakeholders that we reached out to, there's an understanding that when it comes to receiving interpretation services, that this school district is not as strong as it needs to be. If you're a parent, you come up to a school, do folks understand how to use our over-the-phone interpretation? Do they understand how to use Pocket Talk? Do they know who to ask for this very basic service so they can participate in the learning of their student? These stakeholders don't feel that way. There are still barriers to signage and literacy. If you're a multilingual family, you want to come and participate in this board meeting or otherwise visit North Avenue, is there signage for you in your language, or is it just in English? Or if you use American Sign Language, how do you get help? Right now, we don't meet that standard, which means to that third item, more investments are needed. We have to put our money where our mouth is. Or I think more accurately, take the resources that we have available and redeploy them more effectively. And I think as my friend from Maxie gets to his point, you'll see it's not always a money thing, it's a focus thing. At the end, our families believe that some communities are underserved. Arabic, French, Korean, Mandarin, they probably are not able to read the district's daily newsletters or its weekly newsletters because we only send them in English and Spanish, which in some ways is a triumph, but at the same time, after 9 years, since after 5 years, we made progress. I think that's a better way of putting it. Let's go with that. All right, we should tailor our communications more. That's my neighborhood, and I believe that. Finally, our families want to be involved in our decisions. But sometimes if I don't feel like I can communicate with you, I don't think I can be an active participant. And if they're not active participants in the work, then we're losing opportunities to help folks better support their children. So we're going to focus on families. I have 2 slides. with 4 data points. When it comes to preferred communications, the bulk of folks who participated and responded to this survey prefer text messages. Yes, they like direct contact with teachers or other staff members or letters, but text messages, and if we want to be really specific, WhatsApp is where how they want to speak with us. We don't use WhatsApp. There's some legal and technological reasons, but we can talk about those later, but generally we don't do it. Welcoming environments, other folks who participated, this was the largest group. There's a wide variety of feedback on this issue, but the largest group of 29% of those participants feel like we provide an inclusive and welcoming environment. So yes.
71%.
Yes, 71% do not. When we talk about culture and proficiency, you're going to see that 67% of the participants that responded prefer to communicate in their native language with our staff. I go to my school, I speak Mandarin, I want to speak in Mandarin. I'm comfortable, I feel like I can effectively communicate. Only 15% feel like they can do it. So some of the times where we've seen folks present to this board or speak to the administration directly, they're saying, I need help and I can't get it. And that continues to be a challenge for us. What's the area of growth? So that's what, for external folks, that's how we conducted the work. We have 3 significant challenges. The first is we need everyone to understand this is a multi-year effort. And as my friend Andreas will describe later, it's because we started later. Many of our peers, especially among Maryland LEA, started earlier. They're further down the road, but that doesn't mean we won't catch up. We will. Our ability of staff to access and engage with this project was challenging. Many folks don't understand their roles, so they don't know if this should matter to them. We're going to help them to understand it does. And finally, the third one is trust. We're dealing in an environment right now that if you are an immigrant family, or if you're a person of color, or if you're perceived to be part of a group that's under siege in this country, you don't want to come out and speak to the government. We are the government in many ways. I don't want to risk my freedom for that. So when we're reaching out to families, especially the second wave of which we tried to get feedback, you're going to see holes in our data. And you're going to see the holes in our data specifically because families didn't always feel like they could participate or they were afraid. So with that said, I'm going to pass the ball to Andreas, who's going to help contextualize where we stand in relation to our peers, both nationally and here in Maryland. You have the floor.
Commissioners, thank you for the opportunity.
The microphone.
Sorry. There you go. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Dr. Santelice. Thank you, Andre, for your partnership, Principal Garcia. Before I start, I want to give you all some context. In 1999, I moved to this country with $200 in my pocket. I have realized the American dream. What we do is serious. This is work that is important to me. I've learned many years ago that you can have a business where you can make a difference in your community. I am very proud to see Ms. Guzman having a seat at the table here. My firm has been around for 15 years. I started it because my mother-in-law almost passed away when she took a pill for Hashimoto disease. Instead of taking 1 pill, she took 11 because it does, if you look at the prescriptions, a lot of them read once daily. Once reads in Spanish, once. Simple stuff that happens. Language is so much more than translating and interpreting. It's a pattern, a pact of being able to be actively engaged in community. Throughout the years, as I started my company, one of the things that I recognized was that language access, unfortunately, is an after fact. Folks deploy translations or interpreting services as a reaction to something, but there is not a path for scalability. So, if you look me back, I'm a business guy, I've studied, I prepared myself, and I was like, how can I go and make a difference and impact for my community where we built something that can provide qualitative and quantitative data so that stakeholders like yourselves can make decisions that impact efficiencies and deployment at a scalable way. So without going too far, we developed a language access maturity model following some of the standards that are followed in business practices in technology. I know that we are in an academic setting, so you're used to the 5 and the 0, and the number 2 that is placed for the language access maturity model for city schools is not a number that is reflected on an academic setting. To give you some guidance and so forth, we typically do not engage with customers that are below a 0. We have the privilege of supporting many of your peers. We support Montgomery County Public Schools, District of Columbia Public Schools, Arlington Public Schools. Yesterday, we were launching a contract for the City of Boston. We have the contract, the global contract for the FDA. We have contracts we have supported the City of Boise, Idaho, the place where there's the most refugees resettlement nationwide and a very conservative state, if you will, and so on. So we have vast experience. One of the things that surprises me about Baltimore, which is such a lovely city, is in my neighborhood, is the resilience of the city and the spirit of making things happen. The reality is that if you really care about immigration and patterns, you understand that comparing city schools with its peers, Montgomery County or District of Columbia, is not fair, because from an immigration pattern perspective, DC, some regions in Virginia experience immigration patterns that were done much years before that what you have experienced in Baltimore. The city, District of Columbia government, Virginia, and some of the Montgomery County as well, have policies in place that are very robust because they have a lot of experience and bandwidth leading and delivering services for immigrants. The reality is that the city has experienced a wave of immigrants right before the pandemic and throughout the pandemic that has been that has been a shock to the system, if you will. And the reality is that the immigrant shape and the makeup of the Baltimore region is a very different makeup of those immigrants that you will see in some of the other metro areas. What is commendable is the work and the will of getting things done. So if I were to compare and kind of look at the data, because I know we're humans and we like to compare, the City of Boise, Idaho got a 1. And they asked us to do this research for them, but pretty much what they were trying to do is avoid a Title VI lawsuit, and they were dealing with stuff, but they don't have, as I go later on, some of the strengths that Baltimore City Schools has, and they will never have that just because it's not under spirit of governance currently to create equitable access for language. City Schools is very aligned with Montgomery County, which is one of our customers, not the schools. The schools have our placement number 3, but Montgomery County has a very similar placement as City Schools, the City of Fort Collin, and you will be amazed as well to say the Federal Drug Administration, the FDA, has a $25 million budget, very large global contract, but there's no process in place as sophisticated as what City Schools is planning to do. So from a numbers perspective, certainly you want to aspire to get to discipline, which is number 3. Discipline, we have measured District of Columbia Public Schools, Arlington Public Schools, Montgomery County Public Schools. The school is very close to getting there, and there's things that are happening, and this landscape analysis provided the roadmap to get it done. And there's the will to get it done, and we will get there. From an elevated perspective on number 4, we just came back from the City of Boston. It's just at another level. We really haven't really experienced transformed. Really at the transformed level are some of your insurance companies or pharmaceutical, just because it's a business perspective and it's all about the money. So they understand that language is a great driver for engagement and to get the pocket rolling. We're here, obviously, in here, trying to further and push for further education and academic engagement. Oh, sorry about that. So from a strengths perspective, the district has two very strength areas, strategy and governance. So as Chief was saying, there's alignment with your strategy here in the board. There's also alignment with the communication strategy. You all have contract vehicles in place. It's healthy. There's different vendors. Let the vendors win the work. There's some really short-term opportunities to increase that score in the way of creating protocols and procedures for language access and creating independence through contract vehicles and purchase orders at the school level with the management, centralized management. So for example, at the school level, if you can have Ms. Garcia, for example, having her own PO with a central office, that will create further engagement. Findings for growth areas, process automation. There's an opportunity to create process automation across the board. Also, as we've been talking and Andrea was mentioning process, you need to make sure that there's a process in place so that operationally there's alignment and folks understand what to do. What we have found in our research is that internal stakeholders and staff are really, from the greater scope, willing and very engaged of supporting community and welcoming families. But if you just don't know how to do it, it's tough to get that done. And then management, which is very positive, as they have mentioned. Thank you. There has been a staff that has been in place for dedicated focus on starting that office and just working on that office and making sure that that person can work to get those procedures in place, training in place, and so forth. So there are very good short-term opportunities to get to the level of District of Columbia Public Schools, Montgomery County Public Schools. What I do see is that from a strategy perspective, there's a lot of buying at the top level, and that is something that is going to help tremendously move to the next stage. Yes.
Thank you, sir. So we're at our last two slides. What happens next? For our staff, we want to focus on structure and culture. How do we do the work that's needed to be done? You've heard a lot of information tonight where areas where we can improve. The great thing is we have the desire to do it. So here's how we're going to focus on it. First, we want strategies for delivering respectful, responsible service across language barriers. We need to develop, again, better ways to focus on what we're doing. We want to build our understanding of diverse cultural backgrounds to foster inclusive interactions. Simply put, we want everyone to feel like they can interact with this school system. Regardless of where you started from, the language that you speak, that's always our goal. But in particular with this group, we want to train our staff to better deliver that service. We want to provide proven methods for outreach and communication and relationship building with multilingual families. We've made quite a bit of progress in the last 5 years. Our social media channels, our commitment to producing information in English and Spanish, we want to do that work. The goal is to work on the other folks who aren't receiving this information right now. And finally, procedures for accessing interpretation and translation resources. We do not have a common understanding throughout the organization of how to do it, but we're bringing along someone who's going to help us to build that structure. So I'm passing you the ball.
Yep, and I'm going to close out with us our next steps, then we'll take questions from the board. As Andre just mentioned, thank you to the board for approving this year's budget because we were able to hire a language access administrator who starts on Monday. Yes. And I will just say it is Haley Tilt who has been our, yes. I love that reaction. Thank you very much. I had the same reaction. And I told my team, and I want to make sure you all hear this too. Haley is an architect. She came here without any SGA structure or process or flow, and she created something out of a little bit of nothing, right? And she has promised me that she's going to do the same for this work. And we're excited that she's going to work alongside. She's reporting directly to the two of us. We are going to be hands-on with this on a regular basis. Her first steps will be to go and sit in schools and understand best practices at the schools, to investigate our different districts around the state and our CGI districts across the country that are our partners to understand what their best practices look like. Then she's going to develop with our partnership and our existing staff, short-term and long-term implementation plans. As Andre said before, this is a 3-year plan, right? We're not going to get everything. We now know what we're not doing well. We've got a couple years to figure out how to do it. But I've told Haley I need a house by January. So she knows at least the blueprints for a house by January. So that's the charge that she's had, and really focus on cultural competency. We're also going to develop language access standard operating procedures in the short term and best practices. So we have consistency so Principal Garcia doesn't have to build the boat and drive it at the same time, and yet every other school is doing the same thing. We want consistent practices amongst all of our schools and clear expectations. For example, like you mentioned, the report card access or other things, right? We're going to conduct a analysis of our current policies to understand if there's any policy changes that need to come forward. We will bring that to the board at another time once we learn what current policy says and what changes might need to occur. We're going to launch a mindset transformation effort. I love that phrase, mindset transformation, about who we are, who we serve, and who our community is, and we need to serve them all equitably and fairly. And last but not least, our hope eventually in the end of this 3-year period is, or sometime, Andre would like now, is to hire a language access office that is dedicated to this work. But right now we'll take Haley and we'll take the staff we have and the investments we've made currently. Last thing I'll close with is Commissioner Esposito asked me a question earlier about the district's plans to provide language learning language access for Spanish. And I spoke to our Chief Human Capital Officer and our Senior ED of Equity, and they both said it was already in the works. So we were already working on that. There will be a staff opportunity for our staff, to learn Spanish from city schools. So I was pleased that I could come back with that answer very quickly, Commissioner Esposito, that it is already in the works. And they were like, no, tell them now, tell them we're already doing it. So I will close with that. I would love questions from the board, and thank you for the little bit of extended presentation, but this is it's part of my heart and soul. And so I just appreciate the little extra time we had to sort of share our work today.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate the presentation this evening, and I just want to thank Principal Garcia in particular for coming and sharing a little bit more about what's happening at Lakeland. I think it's really important and a vital time for our community and for the city of Baltimore in terms of how we're looking at serving these students and our families who are coming in, who are here now, and who may come tomorrow. So I'm going to turn it over to my board colleagues for some questions before I get to my own this evening. So let me do Commissioner Esposito and then Commissioner Kenyatta Bay. Those will be our first 2 questions this evening.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, thank you for coming back with that answer. And I wanted to kind of follow up because I know we got testimony before, just emphasizing like the importance of compensation for staff that could serve as translators or those like cultural connectors in schools. And I'm also wondering, like at schools like Falstaff, Lakeland, Armistead Gardens, and all the others where staff have taken initiative, if there's any opportunity for them to come together to help craft or like, like lessons learned for how to create a culture of language learning and support.
Absolutely. We will definitely have a work group that Haley will pull together of different staff from across schools and district office around how to do this work. I think the compensation is a larger question. I know BTU has asked before about if you're bilingual, do you get paid more? That's not a question for this team. I just want to share now that is something that we'll go back to HC and talk through. But I will say this office directly has been paying for parent meetings and extra meetings. We pay stipends to our staff who are bilingual to do those specific meetings. I think the reference is more about school day and having those staff be paid extra for their talents. And so that's something that HC can take up. But we do provide stipends to folks regularly to help us with interpretation and translation for meetings and stuff at schools.
Awesome. Thank you.
That's the first thing. Okay. First of all, I want to thank you very much. Sometimes you begin with, well, the car is just not running before you really dig into fixing that engine, before you get in there and changing the tires. Right now, you had begun with saying that there were other LEAs that had started out in front of us and trying to mechanically put in place. And I've worked in another LEA, and I've been with ESOL and MLL for about 18, 20 years now. as a teacher. And one thing that I've noticed, and the question that I have, is that no habla español, nada, not a word. But my students and I, we communicate because we communicate on a little French, a little Russian, a little Arabic. That's it. But the thing is that we communicate because we understand each other on a cultural level. And sometimes the communication that we need, the bridge that we need, is to be able to cross that bridge of culture. And often we have that pushback. There's a lot of pushback of crossing that bridge. We have a diverse Baltimore. Baltimore is very diverse. And of course, you're going to have this big push because our largest community of multi-language learners are going to be in the Spanish community, and therefore it's the squeakiest wheel. But then as I taught, I always realized that we leave other groups out. We don't have the support for other groups. I am pleased to see that you are building that a little bit more. And we have to be stronger in reaching out there, because being able to understand crossing bridges in other cultures other than the predominant culture will make us stronger as a LEA or as a community. Right now, we're under attack. Anybody, I mean, if I go to France now, okay, parle little français, I'll be okay. But if I go to France, they're not trying to teach me how to speak French. I have to survive. And this is what students that are coming from and families that are coming from other environments are used to. This is an unusual panacea for them, saying, hey, they want me to learn this language and they're going to teach it to me. And so one, I applaud your efforts. Okay, I'm not going to take up a lot of time. And one thing that I had questioned, it was about the data. And the data that I looked at actually leaves big holes in response, in community response. And also, there's an aim in my mind, just maybe it's misperception, that we're not looking at those people who are in the forefront, the boots on the ground, the instructor, the teachers, because they're the ones that initially have the communication with the families, And so that's just a couple of comments. It's not, because I know it's just an analysis. You're looking at the terrain and you're going like, car ain't running, but we're going to make it run. And thank you so very much for the work that you've done.
Thank you, Commissioner Kenyatta Bay. I appreciate that. And I just want to offer, we are woefully behind in other languages, but for example, in places we're doing it right. So for our budget sessions, those slides and decks were done in 5 different languages. The interpretation was available, the translation. So we are doing it, but that's not consistent practice across the board. For our population, 20% of our population says that Spanish is their first language in the home, right? And the next language down only has 287 families. So that is why we paid close attention to Spanish first. We're doing a decent job with Spanish. We could still do better. And to your point, we could do other languages so much better as well. I also just want to note, this is an operations sort of functional analysis. We didn't touch teaching and learning. I want to be clear about the academic portion. Chief Dabrowski and her team has done significant work and investment across the board of being able to serve multilingual learners in multiple schools. I just want to make sure we're clear, this is not part of that conversation. That is an academics exercise. We are more focused on how we do our business. But to your point, I believe you did speak to some teachers, and we will make sure that we are getting more information from teachers. But if that wasn't apparent, we would make sure that it should be, because teachers were part of the analysis, because they do. We know that our families go to schools first to get communication and information. And so the teacher's voice in this process is really important to us.
You have anything to add, Andres?
Absolutely. Teachers were involved, and probably one of the best stakeholders to discuss, the same as the SLAs, the amount of input and engagement and the trust that families have with staff is commendable. There's a lot of trust And if you look at the data, what you will find is that families rely heavily on bilingual staff. But going back to your point of sometimes language is not the need, it's just that embracing folks and making them feel safe. The power of safety. This moment is a very powerful moment because we can all speak the language of empathy and understanding families are hurting right now. And that's important.
And I just would like to add, agreed on the teacher component of it, but the first experience that my multilingual learner families have when they walk in is with my front office staff. It's the opening of the door. It's a smile on the face. It's a good morning. I'm Garcia by marriage. I'm not a fluent Spanish speaker either, but my parents don't necessarily know that because I go about and make the means to be able to communicate. And so, yes, teachers, but also, do I feel welcomed when I walk into a building? Because that's really, it's where it starts. It's like when teachers come down to North Avenue and their first experience with Baltimore City Public Schools, it starts when they walk in this door, right? So just thinking about where that first touch point is, and then how do we build off of that touch point, which is why I mentioned it takes time. Because when we enroll families, we ask the questions about disrupted education. We ask about family trauma. We ask about medical. Like there is layers of things that we ask that take time. Things that you're not necessarily going to see in these data points because that would mean that every school's doing something a little bit different. So like at Lakeland, we pride ourselves in focusing on where are you at? What don't you know? That literacy piece, right? If I think about the pandemic, we opened a Genius Hour. We literally had something out front and parents coming up with computers. Why? Because just calling over the phone wasn't working. So how do we roll up our sleeves, sit side by side with parents and show them that we care and want them in our building?
Thank you so much, Commissioner Kenyatte. Commissioner Coy?
Yeah, thank you for this work. And Chief Highcovered, I know how committed you are to the long efforts that this is going to take to have the transformation that you want. My question touches, Principal Garcia, on a little bit what you're speaking to, and curious your thoughts on this first, and then Andreas as well, before going the Chief Highcovered and Andre. If there was one or two measures that are like either a proxy, obviously there is the language access maturity model that has been established that encaptures a lot of things. But if you think about us as a school board, how will we know that the inputs are having the outcomes that we want? How do we know that? Like, what things can we look to that would give us insight into that a year from now, if we're coming back to this same topic?
I would just tell you from our perspective, I'm stepping into my third year as principal, but I've been at Lakeland for several years. Our parent breakfast was maybe 20. I have about 70 parents that show up monthly for parent breakfast. And so I would tell you that those are my numbers. That's my data point. The more parents I have showing up, the more parents that are asking how they can support their child, that to me is where the numbers are. But I would tell you, my school looks different from an Armistead Gardens, like Commissioner Esposito was talking about. It's culturally different. You know what I mean? So I think that is about getting to know who you have directly in your building and then looking at that as a data point. So for me, it's about the parents I have that show up for parent breakfast.
Yeah, and I think that, kind of what Principal Garcia is saying is extremely valuable. I think there's really great opportunity. If you look at some of those schools that really don't have a good understanding culturally how to engage with parents, parents that may come in, instead of going to MESC for enrollment, they go to those schools and they find themselves where there's no level of engagement from the front desk staff, or some buildings that are not welcoming to community. I really think that from a process perspective, if there's a transformation on staff, so that also staff that might have their own biases, because we all have a bias, right? And understand where they're coming from, because some staff also feel threatened by, why are these folks getting all this stuff when my community, my perception might not be getting? That is, you have to recognize that and then probably explain it. So I think that there's no one point, but I believe that if you provide those tools, that community loves the schools. Parent community loves the schools. And they're so appreciative. But if if you allow, if now staff is equipped to do a job that is easy to do, going back to kind of a process for changing the tire, instead of having to think you're going to fix this, is just going to help an environment that is going to fit itself, because then parents are going to say, oh, now this school is doing this differently. I'm feeling more welcome. That's what I would say.
Yeah. And I would just offer a couple quick things quickly. One, this, as you mentioned earlier, our enrollment transfer window opened up this week, right? We heard in the boardroom from parents who are non-Spanish speaking parents. Why are other people getting different treatment? Why is there a different line for Spanish speaking families? This is a culture shift that is not just about our staff, it is about our families, it is about our community. And it's about understanding that, that little equity model where you get the little kid on the box and whatever. It's not that everything's equal, but it's what everybody needs to be successful and engaged. And that's the shift we have to do. But I was looking at my friend Chief Jones over there. The survey work we do isn't just a survey for the fun of it, right? We're going to use that data. We know that the families who speak Spanish as their first language at home have lower survey satisfaction rates than our other families. It's clear. Though those are very short-term wins for when we see that progression, we increase the number of families responding and we increase the satisfaction those families are experiencing. But also, staff indicated they don't have what they need to be successful. When we have principals and teachers responding back in the surveys that they now have what they need and they feel like they can provide better services, that's at least a beginning bar. But we will be setting KPIs on the progress of this work. I mean, this is Andre has one KPI. He has a lot of work to do. You all know that, communicating constantly. This KPI is what's most important to me and it's what's most important to Andre. So we will establish new KPIs around this work and we will communicate with the board regularly on our progress towards achieving those KPIs.
Thank you so much. Commissioner Ames Messenger.
First of all, thank you for asking questions where we know the answers aren't going to necessarily be positive and taking the time to get that data. I think that's how we improve as a district, and I think that that takes courage. So I appreciate that. The second thing, and Doctor, can you say your last name again? I'm so sorry, sir.
It's Echeverry or Echeverry.
Echeverry?
Yeah, perfect.
Dr. Echeverry. I'm curious kind of about the pattern of specialization and just very anecdotally from talking to friends that work that this kind of becomes, and I'm a social worker by profession, so like this becomes your problem to go deal with, like there is a person in every building that handles these sets of issues. And I guess just kind of looking at how that's come through, and I'm looking specifically at our management score, and I think it's wonderful that we're bringing in people who are going to manage this as a district level, but looking and we think a couple steps down the road, how are we going to look at this when realizing this is a management at a school level, this is a management at a district office level problem within, not you specifically, Chief Jose, but like within the school's office, like when you show up at district office, this becomes an issue at all managers levels, not just within your office, Chief High Covered. So I guess kind of, is there data that would kind of resonate with that from within feedback that you got in the district and or kind of within other folks throughout the nation about are there best practices that we should take away that this doesn't just become your front office staff who also speak Spanish, their problem to solve for the entire school community?
Yeah, so from a simple, I think from a programmatic and business perspective and what we have seen, we do have the privilege of looking and working with sophisticated customers that are, and also customers that are just a little bit just beginning at the beginning stage of the process. It's important to have ownership, programmatic ownership, because there's accountability and there's the ability to go back and measure KPIs, data, and build and specialize so that you can better communicate at the district level. Our recommendation and what we have seen is that the Office of Engagement and Communication, without having ownership over this, has experience with this process. And it's a very healthy experience that should be built upon. And having a centralized office in our vision that provides, typically, for example, what you see in cities that have a larger budget for this, there's a centralized office, and then you have At the school levels per buckets, you might have what is called coordinators that work on language in tandem with the centralized office that programmatically provides training, guidance, and procedures. And then that is equipped with policy and so forth. Did I answer your question?
It did, and I'm excited to see if you have recommendations around what those policies are as we get in the weeds, but go ahead.
Now, I was just going to say, you've hit the nail on the head when you talk about cultural shift as a district. And I'm not talking about cultural competency now. I'm talking about everybody in this district, from the board all the way across, right? We have to have a shift. And I would just want to, like, last time you honored a scholar superstar and a young man sat here with his parents who didn't speak English, and we celebrated that young man. This is not a insinuation of anybody doing anything wrong. It's just that we haven't changed our practices. So those parents didn't get the benefit of hearing all the wonderful things that you all said about that, right? Once we know, I'm a channel Dr. Durant, once you see something, you can't unsee it. Our job is to make sure that our staff see what they don't see, and that they then move in a different way. And that's going to take time. That's why I keep saying we can put tools and things in place in the short term, but that culture shift of see what you don't see and move differently is the work we have to do. And that's what's going to be hard, but I know we can do it because we've done it around our equity policy, right? We've done it around other things. We have moved in that way as a district, and with people like this principal sitting next to me who are committed to doing this work, we can see what we don't see and do things in a different way. It's just going to take time. So we already have some plans for work groups and folks that need to be trained and how we go across offices and et cetera, et cetera. So, yeah.
I would say, and to that point, I appreciate that last example, which is that and I think for us to think about as board members, like how does that change? And that this is one of our most public facing settings in the district. And how do we change how we behave within this room and in this space to make that more accessible?
And
So
our graduation.
excited to do
There's
that
so many things.
together and graduation. Amen.
I'm challenging Commissioner Lollinger, who pointed out our graduation concern, but yes.
Thank you so much. Any of my additional board colleagues like to lift anything up? So I'm going to build upon a couple things like I heard here. So I love that last slide around recommendations, right? And I think there's a lot of opportunities in the recommendations to help on a number of levels. So one, I'm just going to pick up off one thing that Commissioner Ames Messenger said, if we're looking at how do we continue the momentum from not only what we see in schools at the district level, but at the board level too, right? So those recommendations on resource allocation, how do we look at teaching and learning? There's a lot, and that is our primary focus as a board. I think there's a lot of opportunities as we continue our work as board members to think and center this work for all of our learners, not just what we understand today, but as our demographics change, I think are really important. And in our fulfilling all of our board responsibilities. But I also think about the opportunities to work with multiple interest holders, both internal as well as external in our community who fund city schools, who care about city schools, to make sense of this data, but also to be more and more invested in this work. And then as we go through a transition, I think we just need to continue to name that as we have a new CEO come in, how do we talk about the importance of this work and not losing the momentum and the opportunity to really focus on that? And so I appreciate this study and what came out of this landscape analysis and recognize that this is a start. It's exciting to hear that Haley is taking up a role that is going to be vitally important for the district. We'll miss her on the SGA side and look forward to seeing who steps into that role. I'm very appreciative of this work and of the external partnership that we have with your firm that has helped us to gain these insights here. Any additional comments or questions from my board colleagues this evening? Just like to thank you guys again, and we look forward to sharing more of the information tomorrow morning that goes live.
Yes.
Okay, so we'll look forward for that. Thank you again.
Thank you for the extra
Good
time.
night. I'd like to invite Dewana Starrett up to the podium. She's going to be sharing item 5.02, which is a presentation, actually, and Chief Simmons, I believe, is joining her on our regular business meetings. It's policy BEA, a change for first reader this evening.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, Madam Vice Chair, and members of the school board. I'm Dewana Merritt Starrett. I'm in the board office, and today I am going to present policy BEA, which is regarding the regular business meetings of the board. Next slide, please. As we always start off, we discuss all the priorities that each policy will address, but because you are the board, you obviously address all 7 priorities throughout your work. Next slide. So the primary purpose of this policy is to allow the board flexibility in establishing its board meetings. Next slide. So the revised language removes the current language in the board policy that says that the board would meet the 2nd and 4th Tuesday of every month, typically at 5 o'clock. This language will now allow the board more flexibility to make modifications to allow twice monthly meetings. Next slide. So again, the revised language was based on feedback from the policy committee meeting on June 17th, my birthday. And as I said earlier, the current policy says typically you meet at 5 o'clock on the 2nd and 4th Tuesdays. Next slide. So this is a tier 1 policy, which means it's merely just administrative regulation. It was posted on the school system's website for public feedback, and as of July 10th, there was no stakeholder feedback received because this was an administrative change. Next slide. So the timeline again, June 17th, we had the policy committee meeting, and this officially is the first reader. Next slide. But since this is a administrative regulation, I would hope that the board would be open to adopting a suspension of policy BGB, which BGB requires that the board pass policies only on the 2nd reader. But because again, this is an administrative regulation, I hope that administrative change, I hope that the board would be willing to vote to suspend policy BGB to allow for a 2nd vote to accept the immediate adoption of the changes in BEA. And that is the presentation.
Thank you so much, Dewana. I appreciate that. Excuse me. Would you like to review the slide previously?
One slide back.
Yep. Yeah, let me read the motion this evening. So due to the desire to implement revisions to board policy BEA, our regular business meeting, as expeditiously as possible, I move that the board suspend the procedures in board policy BGB, policy and recommendation actions adoption, which require that policy revisions be voted on at 2nd reader so that the board can adopt these revisions to board policy BEA at 1st reader. Is there a motion?
So moved, Kenyatta Bay.
Thank you, Commissioner Kenyatta Bay. Is there a second? Thank you, Commissioner Simmons. Before we vote, is there any questions or comments from board colleagues this evening on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor, Vice Chair Parker?
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Ames Messenger.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Chicas Guzman.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Coy.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Esposito.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Kenyatta Bay.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Redding Lollinger.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Simmons.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Slater Harrington.
Yes.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I'm also in favor. This motion passes. We will now have a vote on the proposed changes to policy BEA as presented. Do I hear a motion to accept the proposed changes to policy BEA?
So moved, Parker.
Thank you, Commissioner Parker. Is there a second?
Second, Kenyatta Bay.
Thank you, Commissioner Kenyatta Bay. All in favor, Vice Chair Parker?
Yes.
Commissioner Ames Messenger?
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Chicas Guzman.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Coy.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Esposito.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Kenyatta Bay.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Redding Lollinger.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Slater Harrington.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Simmons.
Yes.
Thank you, and I am also in favor. This motion passes. I just want to share for the general public that the board will be updating our regularly scheduled board meetings. Those will be available for school year 25-26, available on our public website shortly with the full roster. Thank you, Dewana. I appreciate it, and thank you, Chief Simmons. We'll now hear a presentation from Sabri Barnes, Director of Student and School Operations and Support, Shanae Tynes, Senior Project Manager, Strategy and Compliance and Revisions to Board Policy KIA. This is a first reader for this policy this evening. Visitors to schools.
Good evening. My name is Sabree Barnes. I am the Director of Student and School Operations Support, and I'm joined by my colleague, Shanae Tynes, Senior Project Manager for Strategy and Compliance. And today we will be sharing updates to board policy KIA visitors to schools. Next slide. The revisions to KIA are aligned with board strategic priorities 3, 4, and 5. Priority 3, specifying high-quality modernized facilities and resources that support the success of students, educators, administrators, and staff. Priority 4, effectively engaging all stakeholders. And priority 5, providing equal access to district services, resources, and facilities to ensure the success of students, staff, and the surrounding community. Next slide, please. Why are we revising board policy KIA? Well, KIA has not been updated since 2015. In April of 2024, there was some updates made to the school building entry management protocols for students and visitors. The revisions that we are sharing today actually underscore and lift the alignment between the protocols and the actual policy. Next slide, please. Some of the key features to board policy KIA are screening procedures, procedures for special categories of visitors, and guidelines for restrictions and exclusions and procedures for visits. Next slide, please. But big picture, we want alignment with the entry management protocols, but on a more granular level, the goals of the proposed revisions are to outline information and expectations for the weapons detection systems, provide clarity for classroom visits, address concerns about animals, and ensure alignment with EBB and JIH. The proposed revisions include a section dedicated to definitions, and you will find an additional definition for school days, as well as a revised definition for parent or guardian's consultant. There's also a new section that highlights the implementation strategies for the building entry management protocols. The following items that you see listed have been incorporated into the revised purpose section. The city schools' commitment to safety and the well-being of all stakeholders, providing a multi-layered approach to school safety that is aligned with best practices and procedures that promote a safe and effective learning environment.
Thank you, Sabrina. Good evening. This slide connects the proposed policy revisions to the district's updated school building entry management protocols that we introduced last school year in April of 2024. And most importantly, it lays the foundation for how we handle weapons detections in our high schools. These protocols established a system-wide approach to managing how people enter our buildings, whether it's students arriving in the morning or families coming in for a meeting or visitors attending large events. What the policy now does is embed these protocols into formal board language. And that includes, as Sabree said, outlining the required visitor check-in procedures, designating security entry points, and reinforcing the use of the weapons detection system. These systems and protocols are a key part of our layered safety strategy. Aligning them with board policy ensures that there is no uncertainty. It also supports accountability, making sure that entry processes, including weapons detection, are not optional or flexible, and they are a part of our district's safety standard. Next slide, please. Weapons detection is one of the biggest updates to the visitor policy. Under the revised regulation, all visitors to high school buildings are required to pass through the weapons detection system at the designated entry points. This is already happening in our high schools. This just puts the changes into our policy regulations. If a visitor triggers the system, whether it be because of an umbrella, a laptop, or something more serious, they will need to consent to a search. If they do not, they will not be allowed into the building. This is aligned with our administrative regulation, JIH-RA, which outlines how to conduct searches for students and visitors. students and visitors. So again, we have simply extended those procedures to apply to visitors for fairness and clarity. What we have learned and seen from our pilot and our first full year of implementation this past school year is that while the system is still a new concept, it does work and it does work for its intended use when it is used correctly. It still relies heavily on staff interaction, consistent training, and clear communication with our visitors and students in order for the system to operate smoothly. Thank you. Next slide.
Thank you, Shannon. The district automated visitor entry system is used to vet visitors and also flag sex offenders who may attempt to enter the building. The use of the system is mandated and outlined in KIA-RA visitors to schools. Currently, Access 411 is the district automated visitor entry provider for traditional schools, while charter schools can utilize alternatives. Next slide, please. In the event that the system malfunctions or becomes inoperable, we have procedures in place to maintain safety. The principal or designee should report to the concern to the vendor and request that the vendor manually check the potential visitor against the Maryland Sex Offender Registry. The school will limit visits to critical meetings, and the staff member will meet the visitor in the main office and arrange an escort throughout the building. The principal or designee will utilize an alternative platform to communicate that the DAVE system is not operational and when the service has been restored. Next slide, please. Visitors are expected to wear their DAVE issued badges at all times. The revisions outline next steps for when parents or guardians are without their ID and what school staff should do if they observe a visitor without a badge or if they enter an unauthorized space. There's been information added about the exceptions for visiting city schools employees who have district issued badges, as well as substitutes and new hires. There's also clarification provided that registered sex offenders are prohibited for entering schools without special permission in accordance with KIB. The aligned procedures for volunteers with board policy KIB, and procedures for when a law enforcement agency or government agency arrives at a school. The policy also provides specifics for animals on school grounds and animals in the classroom. Students, employees, and visitors are not permitted to bring a pet or other animal into a city school's building or office or elsewhere on school grounds, except for service animals as described in Board Policy ACE, service animals, and the accompanying administrative regulation. Animals are not permitted on school grounds 1 hour before through 1 hour past school hours and during school-sponsored activities. The animals must be on a leash or similar restraining device. Always must be removed by the owner, and animals who are part of an educational or student wholeness activity may be permitted with the permission of the principal or designee. Next slide, please. The proposed revisions also include an emphasis on the potential consequences for a visitor that disrupts school operations and the procedures for recording a restriction or exclusion in the incident reporting workflow as required by Administrative Regulation EVB-RA, incident reporting, including student and employee injuries. There's guidance provided for classroom visits, observations by a parent or guardian's consultant. A parent or guardian's consultant is any person who is authorized by the parent or guardian to observe the child in their educational setting for the purposes of making educational recommendations. This includes private therapists such as psychologists, psychiatrists, counselors, or social workers who are hired, contracted, or authorized by the parent or guardian to meet with the student or observe the student at the school during the day. While this may be a person who is approved by the parent, The school has the discretion to approve the request for a classroom observation, and approvals are based on several factors such as frequency and timing. In addition, the consultant is prohibited from recording unless they receive prior approval from both the principal and the Office of Legal Counsel. Next slide, please. Thank you. There are procedures for visits and observations by the parent or guardian of current and prospective students, as well as children who are not enrolled in the school, the recording of IEP and Section 5014 meetings, and guidance for tours and visits by public officials, international delegations, other educational institutes, and other community entities. Next slide, please. Because this is a Tier 2 policy, we solicited feedback from a variety of stakeholder groups, inclusive of the Equity Advisory Committee, Charter and Operator-led Schools, the PTA Council of Baltimore City, the Associated Student Congress of Baltimore City, operators, PCAB, CCAC, and our labor unions. And these tables outline the feedback as well as our responses. Next slide, please. Next slide. This concludes our updates, and we thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, team, for the presentation this evening. I'll defer to my board colleagues if they have any questions this evening for you. Commissioner Redding-Lollinger, please.
Thank you. And I just wanted to make a comment, not a question. When this came before the policy committee, I raised the question about what happens when the DAVE system is down. And I just wanted to say I really appreciate, and I noticed the clarifications that have been issued about what the protocol is. And I really believe you strengthened the policy. So I appreciate that, because I do think that fortunately happens with some regularity. It's happened to me a couple of times. I saw another stakeholder group raise that issue as well, but I do believe what you have here is very clear. And so I appreciate that.
I'm going to go Vice Chair and then Commissioner Simmons.
So I have I guess, question/comment around the enforcement. I'm nervous around our staff enforcing if someone has a weapon or if someone is disgruntled. So what types of staff members are being used at the door? Like we talked about, like a pat down. Who's doing that? Like what kind of employees are handling that kind of work when it comes to visitors?
Are you referring to the weapons detection system?
Just frontline, period. So, we have a lot of policies around who can come in, who can't. You can't bring a dog. People love dogs. I guess my question, they do. I guess my question is, when there is pushback, what types of employees or who is at the door that will enforce these policies?
It depends on the configuration of the school. You have some schools when you enter the building, you're immediately at the main office. So the front office staff is usually inclusive of secretaries, office assistants, school leadership. Oftentimes their offices are located within the main office. Sometimes you may enter a school where the entryway does not lead directly to the main office. So you may engage with a support personnel in the building, whether that is a city schools employee or a contractor. But everyone who's at entry points in schools that have weapons detection systems have been trained.
And it's ongoing training. I just wanted to make sure we put that out there as well. We are also towards the end of this summer, preparing for the next school year and into the next school year, are planning for training or retraining of staff so that everyone has a refresher on how to use the system appropriately. And then also just to go off just a little, we conducted observation visits earlier this year, and we were able to assess each school that had a system. So as we go through and conduct the training programs, they are inclusive to what the need of each school is, and not just a broad view of what they've already learned before.
Yes. So thank you for your answer and thank you for your work. I just want to be on the record. I'm concerned, especially in this day of and age, there are a lot of things happening. I don't know if it should be like the secretary who, that kind of thing when we talk about front desk workers or even the principal who should be handling a person who's coming into the school with a gun. So that's something we should definitely, ongoing conversations around when there is a upset parent where, a student from another school coming in, that kind of thing. I just want to make sure that we're putting safety first.
Thank you.
Mm.
Ms. Miller.
Sorry, Josh Sivan, Chief Legal Officer. Just to that point, a couple of things. So if there is suspicion that there is a gun, and that should be referred to school police to do that, because there's a probable cause of a gun if there's that issue. That's separate and apart from going through the first screening
Right.
for the weapons detection, and then even the second screening will be with a wand. It won't be a pat down, right? That's not what school staff are doing. They're saying if there needs to be a search, student, turn out your pockets or put what's in your pockets on the table. And then if a student resists there too, then that's where there might be assistance from police, because that's saying no to, and there can be consequences for
We
that.
have to call them though. They're not always readily available, correct?
Correct.
So
Where-
that's, yeah.
Where we're currently using our weapons detection systems are in the high schools, where there are typically school police in attendance there. And at our middle schools and elementary schools, we're also acutely aware and have building management principles and protocols as well. But just in terms of doing that search that could be confrontational, I'm just flagging that. And if it's an event, a large event with a number of community members coming, there will often be a school police involved in that entry management protocol as well.
Commissioner Simmons?
I just very quickly just wanted to know, what was the turnaround time when the Dave system is down and a principal makes the call? How long is that school without the system?
That is a good question. The vendor has an office here in this city and they have mobile technicians. And I can't commit to a time like, within 45 minutes, someone is there. I don't want to be disingenuous, but they are local and they are responsive. And in the meantime, until someone comes out to service the system, because it could be a software issue or it could be a hardware issue. They may not be resolved even if they showed up within 10 minutes. But the principal can call the vendor if they have the person's ID, and they can manually run the person's ID against the sex offender registry.
Been in schools where I've gone 1 week and the system was down, and then I came back a month later and the system was still down. And then by that point, people become really lax in how they handled it, because the system is still down and there's a bunch of stuff happening in the office, and I quickly write down the person's name, or I quickly have someone sign the book. But I just want to make sure that if the system is down, that there's still another way. And that way, what you just kind of shared is one, but I think that there's another layer. If there is something that, like, if it's just making a photocopy of the ID along with signing the book, but I think that there has to be something else to kind of cover up the error that can often happen with machines, right? And then also understanding that the office can be busy, but somebody has to be committed to that. I mean, when I worked in schools, I worked in the office, and sometimes that might have been my excuse, like, let me just at least take a copy, but I got these kids that are going off over here, but let me at least get a copy of your ID before you go any further. I just want to make sure we're thinking about that we're not leaving it all up to a machine to handle everything.
Thank you.
Please.
Button thing. Okay. First of all, thank you for protecting our kids. But the thing is that, and it's also kind of sad because at a time when we're trying to find ways to open our schools up and be more public, we have to close them down to be more safe. And so you're caught between a rock and a hard place, so to speak, in that effort. And you talked a lot about Dave, and that is, we're moved into Dave out of an older system. And the thing is that we're still going through analysis of whether or not we are effectively using that even within our schools, with our staffs, our volunteers, and our contractors. So we're still trying to make sure that terrain is flat and even. We're going through the audit of that even now. I am trying to find a ground where we can actually not lock our schools down, yet protect them. And I'm trying to find methodologies. I know that, there's a big fear. If we operate our schools in a fear, it scares people away from even wanting to be there, because it looks like that, okay, this is the next step. And so we have to find a way to pull this policy into an alignment that is for society, something that they feel that society in general, the communities feel comfortable about. Now, it doesn't say you lacks the strength of it, but you have to kind of mirror it as though we're not standing at the gate, ready to tackle you because, your chihuahua ran into the school. You know what I mean? And so we've got to be cautious of that in our approach in dealing with this type of policy, in my mind. Mhm.
Just a question I had, to make sure I'm clear. So on a previous slide, you had a statement that there are some exemptions for charter schools and charter operators led schools. How are we monitoring for compliance just to make sure that they have protocols, procedures in place that are similar or aligned with these policies here? Are we doing routine monitoring of those schools? Are we asking for compliance reports? Are we doing on-the-spot checks? Like, how do we ensure that any of those schools that do have exemptions in place that are not following what's expected for our traditionally led schools, that we're actually ensuring that those schools, that we understand which ones have exemptions in place or exercising those, and two, we understand how they're enforcing safety protocols for visitors?
So I think that that our monitoring is the same as our monitoring for other aspects of charter schools. First of all, it's charter schools and they have to have comparable systems, but they may use a different system. And then just like any other issue about compliance in charter schools, the schools office team under Tracy Carter and ONI under Angela Alvarez are monitoring, and if issues come to their attention, they'll work with the school and, if necessary, issue compliance letters.
So is there a particular reason why we've elected for this flexibility for charters and charter operators?
I think it's built into the flexibility that charters have to use equipment and technology that is comparable, but have some choice there. But we can continue to monitor that and see over time if we may need to be more prescriptive down the road. But we wanted to give that flexibility while recognizing that it needs to be a system that provides comparable protection.
Got it. Okay. Thank you. It just may be helpful to consider as we look at second reader, like what are like making sure that there's a difference between like understanding like what is transpiring up front versus waiting to do monitoring at the back end. And so it may be helpful to know how, like what are we looking at as a confidence indicator that all of our students are protected up front versus later?
Right, and there's been a big shift in this policy as elsewhere, and the school's office team, the operations office team has done tremendous work in getting all schools aligned on these policies, traditional schools. So that's real work and real alignment. I should also note, while I happen to be holding the mic, that another piece that we're working on for second reader is compliance with a recent General Assembly provision that required the Maryland State Attorney General to issue guidance on immigration enforcement in schools. And so we already have protocols that align with those guidances, but we will also be reviewing just to make sure those are all fully aligned as we go to second reader.
Sounds good. Thank you, Josh. Any additional questions from board colleagues? Hearing none, thank you so much. We appreciate the presentation this evening. Just for our board and our public, we've reached the end of our agenda this evening. Just want to make sure everybody's aware of our notice of upcoming meetings. In addition to what we mentioned earlier, the board will be issuing our set of public board meetings that are occurring along with our committee meetings for school year 25-26. Our special board meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, August 12th at 9 a.m. in the morning. This will be a virtual only meeting. We'll make sure that the information is posted in board docs and other places as well. Our policy meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, August 19th at 4 p.m. and that is virtual. And then our first full public board meeting of the year is scheduled for Tuesday, September 3rd, 2025. We'll have exec session followed by a public board meeting at 5:30 p.m. Is there a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting? Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you so much. I hope everybody continues to enjoy the summer.